In this video, I'm going to give you guys some of the most valuable information that's ever been given to me. And that is just my thought process and my journey of how every single time I face adversity within my life or I faced any minor setback, I was able to completely reinvent myself and just completely become a whole new person who operates on a whole new level, right? This video has no script. I'm just going to go off the top of my head and just completely give you guys all the value on exactly what you need to do to become the barber who you want to be, become the person who you want to be, guy, girl, whatever, right? Because at the end of the day, getting to that level that you've never been before, right, it requires you to become a different person. It doesn't just require you to do different things, but you need to become that person who does different things, right? I remember back when I was living overseas on an army base, I was just that guy who was like the class clown, right? I was the guy who, I didn't really have any direction. I was never really good at anything. Why was I not good at anything? Because every single time that I started something new, I couldn't commit. I gave up. I felt bad for myself. I told myself that all these people who were doing well and that were in the position I wanted to be in, I told myself that they were just born skilled. They just were born with these skills. They didn't work for them. What I didn't realize is that to develop any skill, to get good at anything, it takes time. It takes dedication, right? And so me being the guy that always quit before I got to where I wanted to be ultimately led me to just this loop of feeling bad for myself, right? That I didn't get to where I wanted to be. And then I would just work a little more, just fall off a little more, quit, go to the next thing, right? First, it was being a content creator, right? I started my first YouTube channel back in 8th grade. I posted 2 or 3 videos and I was done. I completely fell off. All these content creators I looked up to, I just told myself they have something completely different than me. And they did in a way, but for me, what they had, their results was unattainable. I didn't realize that if I just kept working and getting 1% better every day, I'd get to that level. My first failure, right? The content, the YouTube, right? I would make Mario Kart, review different games, different strategies, glitches, and I never really got anywhere with it. And it was because I was the guy that wasn't consistent. I was the guy that felt bad for myself. I was the guy that I just didn't want to stick to anything. I was in 8th grade, but I just didn't understand this one concept that if I continue to work at something, I'm eventually going to get to where I want to be, right? The next failure, I decided that I was going to become an athlete. I decided that this little soccer thing that I've been trying, like I was going to take it serious. I wanted to be a pro. I wanted to be a professional soccer player, right? Actually, no, let's go to before that. Second failure. I thought I was going to be a pro gamer, right? I was on Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO, Fortnite, right? And I saw all these kids making money online, and that was where this all started for me, right? I remember I had a conversation with my parents in 8th grade telling them that I didn't want to go to college because I saw all these YouTubers making money online, and I was like, hey, all these YouTubers I watch, they're making money online, and like they're living in mansions, they're having these nice cars, they have financial freedom, they can travel, and they didn't go to college. What are we doing wrong? And my parents, they just completely didn't believe this perspective that you could make money without college. Why would they, right? It's a completely different generation, completely different beliefs. I remember I'm just in the car with my parents and I'm just like, hey, I don't want to go to college. Crash out, right? No, you have to go to college. You can't if you don't go to college, you're a bum. Making money without college, it's not realistic, right? And it's normal. I can't blame them for thinking this way. But back then, in my mind, the seed was planted. I saw these YouTubers like Mind of Rez. I saw FaZe Banks, right? I remember, shout out Ante. I don't know if you're watching this, Ante. Ante was in my class, right? We were both in 8th grade. Ante was making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off of being a professional Fortnite player while being in middle school. And that completely changed my perspective on everything because I thought, if this kid is able to make almost as much as these teachers and we're in middle school, just by playing Fortnite, there has to be another way. As funny as it sounds, right? As foolish as it sounds, me using Fortnite as an analogy, like this was kind of maybe I can go this route. I want to go the untraditional route. I want to make money without having to go the traditional route, right? And like anything, I quit, right? It got hard. I realized that being a professional gamer meant putting in hours and hours and hours a day into getting good at a video game, and it wasn't for me, right? I tried being a streamer, quit. I tried soccer. I put hours and hours into soccer, and I just remember always having this victim mindset of why I wasn't the best. I wasn't bad. I wasn't trash, but I wasn't the best either, and that's what bothered me, right? I saw all these people on my team, all these friends that I had just getting offers to go play in academies, getting on the varsity team, and actually getting playtime. And I was just stuck there kind of thinking, why can't I get into their position? And I didn't realize that these people, they weren't born any more gifted than me, right? Some people have natural athletic talent, but at the end of the day, it's work over anything. These people just worked harder than me. They were more consistent than me, and they had been showing up for longer than me, right? And it's the same way with business, right? I think another key change for me was me working a job at Chipotle, right? I was washing dishes, and I vividly remember this the owner of the Chipotle, the franchise owner. He came in and he was so happy. And I was like, why is this guy so happy? We're all miserable here scooping rice and beans, washing dishes. Why is this guy so happy? How could his life be so good? As crazy as that sounds, I'm like, this guy doesn't do any work. Obviously, he worked his way up, but this guy is now living a life where his Chipotle location is generating him so much money, and he doesn't even have to do a single scooping of rice and beans, yet he's making more money than all of us. If what do they say? If hard work made you own the farm, the donkey would own the farm or whatever. I was like, wait a minute, doesn't really add up, right? This guy's always so happy. He always has so much free time. He's always making all this money. Meanwhile, I'm over here getting 12 an hour. He's saying if I wash dishes full time, he might promote me to $12.50 an hour, right? You know what? It just kind of opened up my eyes. And I remember asking my manager, I was like, how do I get like him? How do I get to that position? And I realized that a lot of people at that job, they had just completely accepted where they were at, right? They never had even that thought of how can I get to be in this guy's position. They didn't even have that thought. It was just more, I'm going to keep showing up, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll get what I'm given, right? And for me, I've been working at Chipotle for a year. I've been washing dishes, making $12 an hour. I was about to get $12.50 an hour. And I was already thinking about how can I own one of these places, right? And I remember I asked the manager, and he had no real clear plan or answer for me. Maybe just work a little harder, maybe work longer. And that was the moment everything changed, because that was the moment I realized that, hey, these traditional work your way up type of things, it just doesn't make sense. Because it's like, I've never even seen him I don't even think he knows how to roll a burrito, right? But at the same time, like this franchise owner, he's printing money, right? Obviously, it's not easy, but you guys get the idea, right? I'm working really hard, and I'm not really using my leverage, and I'm not making a lot of money. And I thought to myself, I was like, what is going on, right? After I started cutting hair, I made a commitment to myself that this is something that I was going to commit to for a year until I graduated high school, right? I was going to give it a year. I was going to give it my 100% best effort every day. I was going to get 1% better every day, and I'm just going to see where I get, right? And, from there, I just kind of kept getting better. I kept getting better. And before I knew it, I was in the position in a year where this was no longer a side hustle. This was a full-time business, right? Back to the original topic of this video, reinventing myself, right? I grew up moving around, and what I decided was that every time I took on one of these new identities, I was going to make a shift, right? From living on an army base overseas in Europe to here, I made the shift that I was going to be a little more serious. I wasn't going to be that guy that was perceived as being a class clown. And it was a blessing in disguise, because everyone forgot about me. I had completely fresh start. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody had any impression of me, right? Nobody perceived me in a certain way. So I could just completely restart fresh. And I did. And I kind of didn't like where I went with it, right? What did I do? I quit Chipotle, and I started talking to people in school, and I just became known as the barber instead of the Chipotle worker. Again, I completely reinvented myself, right? And when I did this, there was some people lagging behind, like, hey, aren't you the kid that works at Chipotle? What do you think you're doing being a barber now? But it's like, once you get through that stage where you become a different person, what are they going to say, right? It's like every single time I had to make an identity shift, right? I had to be the guy that didn't give up on something. I had to be the guy that started following through with what I said I would do. I had to be the person that, I'm not going to be the guy who just has a pity victim mindset and feels bad for myself every single time I see someone in a better position than me, and tells myself that they're naturally gifted, or I shifted to have that mindset, and it all started with that Chipotle owner. And I said, this guy is no different than me. He's a little older than me. He's, a little bit smarter than me in terms of how smart he's working. I'm over here working hard. He's over here working smart. But at the end of the day, he is no better than me, as in we're both capable of doing the same things. And once I realized that all these people who were in a better position than me, they were no different than me, that's when my life completely changed, because I stopped putting myself in a box. I stopped putting myself in a box, and I stopped telling myself what was possible, and I started saying, these barbers online that are making $100 a haircut, I'm no different than those people, right? They've just been working smarter than me. They've been working harder than me. They've been grinding for longer than me. They've been more consistent. And that's why they are where they are, right? When I first started Cash Flow Barbers, right, I had to talk on group calls with clients. I had to be a teacher. I wasn't used to that. I wasn't the guy who taught other people, right? I wasn't the guy who was recording content to be able to educate other people. I was just a barber. I had to step into the identity of somebody that educates, right? Now I'm over here educating people on how to grow their barber business, and I would have never thought that. I just would have told myself that that wasn't who I was, right? The point is, every single time you're stepping into a new role or a new responsibility or a new identity, you have to let go of all these ideas of who you are, right? Oh, I'm not a barber. I'm just a Chipotle worker. Oh, I don't have a job. I'm just on the game all day, right? Oh, I don't work at a job. I'm just an athlete, right? I just play soccer, right? I'm just trash, right? These barbers that are charging $100 a cut, it's because of the city they're in, right? Yeah, that doesn't happen in my city. That's not for me. I'm not supposed to be making that type of money. Even back in school, right? I remember when I transferred schools and I went from being one of the best people in my class, one of the people that was considered the smartest, to being the guy that's in a school where everybody's taking advanced classes. It's very competitive. Everybody's very focused on what grades you have, what is your GPA, right? And suddenly I was back at the bottom and I started being perceived as the guy who wasn't good in school. And I started being perceived as in a whole new way, right? And that kind of led me to realizing that all these people that were the 4.0 GPA, the 4.5, the 4.8, they were no different than me, right? There was a lot of pressure on me naturally to conform, right? I was tired of being the guy that was failing classes, asking for help, when I could just be the guy who grinded studying and just put hours and hours and hours in, right? Some people are naturally memorizing things better. Some people are naturally good at math or whatever. But the point is, I was able to outwork all these people, right? I remember I was put in the AP class. I was 1 year older than everyone. And so what did that do? They made fun of me. Why is this kid in this class? Did he get held back? Is he just dumb? Why is this kid taking this AP class? And I was one of the only people in that class who was also balancing school with a part-time job. And everybody would be telling me, just go back to working at Chipotle. Why are you showing up to this class? This class is for people who are focused on academics, right? You're just the guy that works at Chipotle, and why are you here, right? And they would see me just slacking off in class, and I realized I had to make the shift, right? And I kind of just got tired of being that guy who wasn't taken seriously, and I decided for this upcoming exam, I'm just going to sit down. I'm just going to put hours and hours and hours into learning this one skill of test taking, and I'm going to get a perfect score. And what did I do? I ended up being the guy that just outworked everybody, proved everybody wrong, and I got a perfect score on the exam. And around this time I was starting to cut hair, people were like, oh, you're a barber. Why are you even worried about taking advanced placement classes in high school? Why don't you just drop out of high school and be a barber? Jokingly, right? As in, almost the same way people say, be a bum, right? Why don't you just go over there? This isn't for you, right? Again, trying to put me in a box. And it was just like, people are absolutely no different than me. All I just did was just put hours into one thing. I outworked them, right? I placed better on that exam than a lot of people who had been laughing at me, not taking me seriously, right? And I think that was a moment where I proved to myself that I could literally do anything that I put my mind to, because I was always the guy that hated school. I hated test taking, hated doing the work. Therefore, I just thought I was cooked. But I proved to myself that by sitting down, focusing on learning one skill, putting time and time and time and discipline, sitting down, locking myself in my room, studying, stressing myself out, hours and hours every single day, I accomplished what seemed like the impossible, right? And this led me to, again, a year later when I decided that I was going to focus on barbering over a traditional high-paying 9-to-5 career. I decided I was going to be the guy that made $120K a year cutting hair. And I decided I was going to be the guy that did it before I graduated college. And I put my head down every day. I locked myself in my room. I had that obsession. I just kept working. And I ended up being the guy that hit my first $10,000 a month off haircuts as soon as I finished high school, right? All these other people out partying, they were out enjoying their last summer before going off to college. And I was just there realizing like what I thought would have taken me 4 years took me 2 months of focus. 2 months of focus, I was able to accomplish what I expected to accomplish in 4 years. And so the point to all this is we never know what we're truly capable of. We never truly know what we can accomplish until we just have an obsession, lock yourself in the room, work every single day relentlessly, and learn one skill, see where you get, right? Because you are capable of so much more than you think, right? I would have never thought that would be the guy who ever made 6 figures in my lifetime, let alone making it at 18 off haircuts. I would have never thought I would be the guy that would get a perfect score in an AP class because I always told myself that I was just bad in school. I never thought I would be the guy that ends up being shy after being a class clown. But then once I started being really, really shy and like quiet, I never thought I'd go back to being the guy who can make YouTube videos that are 20 minutes long of just me talking to the camera without any anxiety, without wondering or stuttering over my words or worrying what I'm going to say, right? You can change who you are. You can change who you are. You can change what you're capable of. And that's really the whole message of this video. Hopefully you guys found it valuable. We're going to do a lot more of these. I'm going to be documenting my entire journey in business because I'm completely undergoing a transformation. I feel amazing right now. I feel like I'm capable of anything. And I'm just super excited to see where this goes and to look back on this entire journey because I'm going to be documenting the entire thing for you guys. And I'm just super hungry to leave an impact on the barber industry and become the best. I love the game. I love the grind. I love the competition. And I'm going to be number one. I love being the best. I'm always going to do what I set my mind to now because I've become that guy that anything I set my mind to, I'm doing it. No matter what. Anything I write down, it's getting done, right? And so I have these goals written down. I can't say too much about them yet, but they're going to come true. Simple as that. You guys are capable of so much more than you think. Take it from me. Take it from my story. And hopefully this is value. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys later, man. Love all you guys.